Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 18th episode of the Kings Rock podcast. I am Bolt Up here, as always, with Deathgiver.
How's it going, everybody?
And today we have a returning special guest. This is our first returning guest on the podcast. We have Keaton Ash here today.
Hello again.
So Keaton played in the Knoxville Regional Championship, and so he is here to talk a little bit about his run at Knoxville and what he's been up to lately. Then we will go into talking about where we believe the current decks sit in their tiers for the remaining month of the E-Block rotation here. We will have B-Drill trivia, so we'll quiz Keaton on our B-Drill questions for today. And then we're going to look to the future. We're going to see what we expect to be the best decks for EUIC, and then we're even going to look beyond that. So we'll get Keaton's opinions on some of the revealed cards for Crimson Haze and was it Twilight Masquerade?
I think so.
Yeah, for the Twilight Masquerade set. So, starting off, Keaton, tell us how you been. What have you been doing? And then, kind of go over your Knoxville run. Tell us how that went.
So, I played at Knoxville. It was sort of disappointing. My meta call was maybe not what I wanted it to be, but then I've just done a ton of challenges and cups. I'm up to 374 CP, so we're getting closer.
How close are you to maxing out on cups and challenges?
I have 3 cup wins and 3 lower placing finishes in cups and 5 challenge wins.
Have you calculated how many more total points you can get from cups and challenges?
So if I maxed out my locals, I'd be at 450.
Okay. So 150 points from regionals at that point? You go into NAIC?
Orlando, Indy, and hopefully NAIC.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so Worlds is still on the table for you.
It sure is.
You could always just win a regional. That'll get you there too.
Oh yeah, anybody can do that.
Then you don't have to worry about counting points.
Exactly.
That's my plan. That is my plan. I'm not worrying about counting points. I'm just going to win a regional.
Oh yeah.
That'll get me to Worlds. So, Knoxville, what did you play? How did you come to the choice of deck to play, and how did you prepare?
Okay, so I played Rapid Strike because I was playing it for like a month before, and it seemed pretty good. It had mostly good matchups besides 3 decks, which I pretty much just lose to. I didn't expect Stall to be popular because of how much Tina was thriving. I didn't expect. I was more hoping that Moon wouldn't be very popular, but it was incredibly popular at Knoxville. And then Mew is pretty much a loss, so I added Drapion, but I didn't play against a single Mew, so that didn't matter. So,
yeah, real quick, why did you choose Drapion over Spiritomb? Because I've seen a lot of Spiritombs in Rapid Strike lists recently. I know a while back they were running the Drapion, but why did you choose the Drapion over the Spiritomb?
So my friend Grant Bodemer, he kind of talked me into it, but I played a few test games with it, and it seemed to be better than Spiritomb, especially since Mew was always playing 2 fusion energies, or just fusion strike in general. And Spiritomb also shut off my own Luminion, which sometimes hurts. So it's generally better to have Drapion, and since I play 2 Clara, and they generally play no Lost City, I could just recover it and swing twice, and that'd be my game plan.
Okay.
So it makes me
sense.
better.
Did you consider Spiritomb for the advantage that it has against other matchups, shutting down Rotom, for example, and Charizard and Snorlax?
I thought about it, but it's also not part of the ideal board state for like a game, because against Charizard, you kind of have to have all 6 Pokemon you want to easily pull off all the combos you need. But I mean, it has advantages against a lot of decks. It's just not a card that you want to set up all the time if you only have like 1 VIP pass.
And I think Rapid Strike is one of those decks where you have 7 or 8 Pokemon you want to have out at all times.
Oh yeah,
so
you need all of them.
You're really limited on that bench space, so that makes sense. You your Drapion's not gonna survive more than one turn. If it does, good for you. You get to swing with it again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you chose Rapid Strike. Thought it was a good meta call. How'd your tournament go? What did you play against? Was it similar to what you expected? Was it far off from what you expected? How'd that go?
It started off great. I 2-0'd a Tina player. He was slightly newer to the game. I think I just pulled off multiple yoga loops. He had a misplay in the second game, but I don't think he recognized it. So I pretty much walked through that game. Just thought it would be a nice start. I was like, ooh, it's Tina. That should be the rest of this tournament, and I should win. And then, of course, the next game I play against a Roaring Moon. He's a much better player. I lose game 1. I squeak out a game 2 via, I think he didn't take a knockout for 2 turns, maybe. He had a slower start, and I had a good start. And then game 3, we ran out of time, and I just board locked him by not having a 3-prizer, so we had to tie, which was fine at the time because that 101's not bad for 2 rounds.
101's a pretty good start.
Game 3, I play against a Zard player, and I think he wins game 1. I think I spread my damage too thin. I almost picked too many targets, and he pulled off a crucial super odd level ball to get back Manaphy that I previously knocked out. So I probably could have played a turn slower to try and yoga loop or something differently, but his hand was also really small, so I didn't expect that to happen. I win a quick game 2, I think. And then, yeah, game 2 he bricked. He started Rotom and Lumineon. So it's like free
That's
prize
not
cards.
where you want to start as a Snorlax
that is
or
the
a
worst.
Charizard.
Yeah, because I Urshifu to the Rotom and the Lumineon. So it was over pretty quick that game.
Urshifu getting the work in there, right?
Yep. And then game 3 was stressful. It came down to time. I yoga looped during turns, which stole one of his turns, right?
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. So during turns, there's 0, 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't
Yes.
matter who takes them.
Yep.
So
There are 4 turns pretty much, no matter what.
so if you go turn 0 and yoga loop on turn 0, you are turn 0 and turn 1. He would be
And
turn
turn
2 and
3.
you would be turn 3.
Yep.
That's insane.
So that's pretty much what happened. I was at 6 prize cards going as turn 0. This was the craziest thing I would have done with this deck. I yoga looped and double gunnered to kill 2 things. I think I had knocked out Jirachi with double gunner, yoga looped like a Pidgey or a Charmander, and then the next turn I knocked out his Manaphy and the active with Urshifu, setting up for a next turn rapid flow. I had game in hand, but he has an Iono. So he Iono'd me. I needed a water energy to win, and I missed it off of Melanie. I drew 3 cards, and it was the 4th. After I flipped it over.
no.
Yeah.
Never
And
flip over that extra card,
yeah,
bro.
it was a
Never
judge.
flip it over.
It was a judge shuffle as well, so it was really. And looking back, it could have been my fault because I had a choice to kill Manaphy or a Pidgey, and I chose the Pidgey because I thought if he somehow pulls off a lot of rare candies, the Pidgey is always the target, but the Manaphy won't be.
Yeah, right.
But then the Manaphy bit me in the in the behind because because then I couldn't rapid flow my targets, and I needed a water energy to knock out the Manaphy.
So was
So
it your choice to do the jug shuffle for that one?
yes, I did call for a judge shuffle.
You don't
I
want
think.
anybody to call any funny business on you there.
Yep. And then that ended as a tie.
I would just like to point out that usually when you get to turns, you're counting how many turns your opponent has and counting what prizes you have on the board. can they take a 2-prizer this turn and a 2-prizer next turn to gain 4 prizes or whatever? But you can't do that when you're playing against a Rapid Strike deck because they're taking prizes not on their attack and they're
Yeah.
yoga looping. I mean, there's just
And
so many things you can do with that in turns. It's insane.
he also had like a really bad. None of his Pokemon were evolved, besides maybe a single Charmeleon. So all of his targets were really low HP, and I was drawing pretty well.
So he had no Charizard, which blocks Urshifu from doing damage.
He might have had one Charizard, but he brought it to the bench, and I had like infinite other targets, so the Charizard was irrelevant.
Yeah, you weren't even worried about that. You were just taking
Yeah.
prizes around it at that point.
Yep. So, and then round 4, I play into a guy with a player ID number in the 100s.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. He was, I think, just getting back into it. He was pretty good though. He was playing Sablezard, like normal Sablezard. He won game 1 via stalling my Alakazam with Counter Catcher, and I was very, very close to winning that game. And then
Isn't that the worst when you get your Alakazam stuck in there? Because
And then
you can't retreat for free. It costs 2 to retreat.
I
It's
have
just
an
not
escape
fun.
rope and a Professor Turo, so I mean the outs were there. It's just I couldn't easily find them.
Yeah.
Game 2, he does the same thing, but I have, I think, Turo or something to stop it. I win it, and then game 3, low on time. I'm up at least 4 prize cards, dominating, and time's up, and it ends as a tie. Devastating because I probably could have won that game.
So you just had 2 games where you're possibly really close to winning.
Yes. So I I had to play every game out to the end because I didn't know if he had the outs to win.
Sure.
And
So
then
at
yep,
this point, you are 103. So
and
you
I
have the 504 route.
I
Sorry,
tend to not
504
get
route that you're trying to
yeah,
go for
I
here.
tend not to get many ties. So this was a new experience for me.
Well, yeah, you had 3 ties in all of your Peoria run, and one of them was an ID.
Yep.
So you
And
only had 2 legit ties in your Peoria run.
yeah, but those felt different because like mainly I stress about getting to day 2 and then placing when I'm in there, but tying 3 times in day 1 makes it a lot more stressful.
Right. Yeah, because you just have no room for error at that point.
Yeah, or hitting a bad matchup, or just drawing bad.
Exactly. Yeah. And speaking of bad matchups, your round 5. Tell us about that.
I hit probably the best drawing Roy Moon I've ever seen. I mean, I think both games he had double VIP. He had first turn donk. I mean, my starts were very mediocre. I mean, it's hard to beat that once it happens. He would be at 1 prize card while I'm at 6, both games. I was like,
Dang.
I can't win. So it was just over. I mean, it's nothing I can do about that. If it sets up, I can't beat that deck.
So you're 1-1-3 out of day 2, but you're still going for points because it
I could
matters to
use
you.
some. Yep.
Yeah, you can still get them. So
And
what's your
then
next round?
of course I play a stall deck. Uh yeah,
Probably the worst matchup for you.
yeah, I mean he didn't Spiritomb I guess would have helped, but it was that was a game I was expecting to lose anyway. Like nobody likes playing against that deck anyway, unless you're on Giratina or something. So I
And
just
you only hit 1 out of your 9 rounds. You only hit 1. So
yeah, I
I
just moved
mean,
on. I
it's
was
fine
like,
to take that as an L
yeah.
if you have a good matchup into pretty much everything else.
So from that point on, I needed a win out if I wanted points. So then we hit a Tina. It was a really interesting deck that he had. He had a Turbo Energizer in there. The thing that accelerates 2 energy for 1.
Yeah, 2 energy to anything
Like
on
any
bench.
yeah, yeah.
Or any way you like on your banks is what it is.
in Giratina, which was interesting.
That
He
is
used
interesting.
it once against me. I
Which,
pulled
okay,
off.
hold on real quick. So that makes sense actually, because a lot of times early game in Tina, you're just not attacking. You're trying to get to 7 in the lost zone to then accelerate 2 energy.
That's true.
So it's basically Mirage Gate before you can Mirage Gate, because you're not really attacking if you're not using Cram anyway. You're either going to oh shoot, help me out.
Spit
The Tina
or
attack.
Abyss Seeking.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you're either Abyss Seeking or you're hitting with Cram. And if you're not doing those, you're doing nothing. So why not Mirage Gate before you can Mirage Gate? I kind of like that. That's not bad.
It was interesting. It can also be more of a dead card later in the game because you probably don't want to use it. But
Which is fine when you're playing against or when you're playing a deck that wants to Colress or Flower Select a lot. It's fine to have those dead cards every once in a while.
yeah. So I 2-0 him. He
Speaking of that cool tech I'm talking about, yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
Yoga Loop, and he hit into my VMAXs, and I would Turo, I think, once. So then he had no damage on the board at 6 prizes, and he can't really come back from that.
Doesn't he know you're supposed to hit into him after you have the damage set up with the Sableye first?
I guess not. So then, my 8th and final round of the day, I play against Miraidon. She's nice. She's playing the Peony version, so she's going fast. She did
My
not.
favorite version.
I don't think she knew that she wanted to knock out the Urshifus while they were Vs instead of the Inteleons, because I think she flipped heads on a catcher and chose the Inteleon instead.
Okay, just seeing the weakness and going after that.
Yeah, which, I mean, I was thrilled about, but I drew horribly game 1. Like, I could not get... If I could get a single Urshifu attack off, I don't think she could have responded. Because I can Gale Thrust and then Rapid Flow for the last prizes.
And it's really hard for Miraidon to knock out an Urshifu VMAX.
Yeah.
It's really... And not to mention, Urshifu is the only one that does real damage. I mean, it's you're taking 20/20 from Inteleon, 140 at most to the active, which I mean everything in Miraidon survives that.
Yeah. And then game 2, I get a good setup. She does not get as good of a setup, and I just swing with Urshifu. Game 3, we have enough time left. It was feeling winnable. And then I draw my hand, there's only a Remoraid, and there's like nothing going on. And my turn's over. She actually misses an attack. I draw, I play a supporter, and miss like Pokemon again. So then it was over. And knocked out, and I left the venue.
And you gave your round 9 opponent a free win.
Yep. And then my brother, who was also at Knoxville, played Giratina and ended in top 32 at seniors. He had a funny story in his last round. He had to win it into top 16. He was up a game and offered an ID into Gardevoir when he had a great start and his opponent had a bad one in game 2. I think he just got anxious. But either way, he can now go to Worlds if he maxes locals, so that's good for him.
There we go. And I mean, honestly, in our area as a senior, it is very easy to max locals.
Yes. And then my other testing buddies all didn't do so hot. There was maybe one that made day 2, but he got top 128, so or 256 actually.
Can I point out that every single person that you played against did not make day 2 at Knoxville?
Yeah, that was interesting to me.
Way to rub it in, Bolt. Way to rub it in.
That might have been the first thing I noticed when I was looking at everybody.
It was different at Peoria. If you look at Peoria, I think all of my opponents besides one made day 2.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your first round opponent did not,
And then
but
after
yeah,
that, I
round
think
2, 3,
everyone.
4. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And
Well, no,
no,
sorry, 5 and 6. Your fifth
yeah,
and sixth rounds did not.
notably, two of them ended up top 8ing, one of them winning the whole event.
Yeah, you had Raymond Long, Terrence
Yep.
Miller right there. I mean, just
Yep.
and then Dan Hugar in round 15, who you beat, by the way.
He
I
didn't play
mean,
Manaphy, and I had Greninja, so
you just had a star-studded opponents that you played against in Peoria, and then went to Knoxville and nobody made it.
yep. And that's how that went.
So you had a less than exciting Knoxville. What have you been doing since then? What have you been playing? Have you gone back to your beloved Kyogre? What have you been
I
playing? How successful have you been? How have things been going for you since?
I pretty much said screw this. I'm going back to Kyogre, and it's more fun. It's more consistent.
And you're just flat out better with it. You've played it for so long.
Probably. I'm more comfortable with it. I won a challenge for 5 points. Somebody like it was kind of a fluke, but I took it. Uh, Played in two cups this weekend, or I guess last weekend when this is released, right?
Yep.
Yep. One in Springfield. There were not very many Masters, but I went 3-0 and won by resistance. So I took that.
Yep, take those all day.
Yep. And then the one on.
How are there 2 3-0s?
So there was a 9th player, but he was a junior. So I got a bye round 1. Round 2, I beat a Tinkaton Gardevoir deck.
Interesting.
Yep. And then round 3, I beat a Giratina. So when I played the Tina, there were 3 2-0s, me, him, and a Mew player. So the Mew player was playing somebody that got down paired.
Okay. Because
So
normally in a
yeah,
3-round tournament, if you have a bye, you do not win resistance.
yeah.
But
So
when
that,
you
that
have somebody
that's
else
what
get
was
down paired,
weird.
that helps.
His opponents, the other 3-0, all lost all their other games. My opponents all won all of their other games. My 2 real opponents both made top 4.
Well, all right then.
Yeah.
So yeah, that worked out, I guess.
And then the day after, we played in a Champagne Cup with double the Masters. I lost the first game. Happens to a superior Lost Box deck that had Iron Hands in it. So that was not going to be a winnable game. And then
Yeah, that just gives them an instant advantage against you if they get
yeah,
set up.
it didn't help that I missed Cramorant turn 1 and then Dragonite turn 2.
Yeah.
And I don't
Mm-hmm.
play Roxanne, so there's no way for me to win that game.
How do you not play Roxanne?
So Zool in his Kyogre list in Knoxville did not play Roxanne or Boss, but I personally like Boss since you can Palpat it back.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually play Roxanne. I might go back to it, but there's not a ton of space for it, and you don't always want to be using it if you're playing Kyogre.
Yeah, that's fair. It messes with you as much as it messes with your opponent too.
Yeah, and sometimes good players will tend to play around it as well.
Right. Makes sense. But
And
I mean,
then
it's just such a staple though that
yeah, oh
it,
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
very often you see it not in these Lost Zone
yeah.
category
And
decks.
then next game I beat a Charizard. He didn't put down Manaphy. I turned to Greninja. That was over for him. Next game I hit my person who I drove with me to the event. So we just ID'd because he was also using my deck. So it's like we don't want to play against each other.
So is it
And
a
then
mirror match?
no,
Or he was using
he
your
was playing my
physical other deck?
yeah, he was playing my Charizard deck that I brought for him. And
Okay.
then of course, round after I hit shout out Joe Storino, who drove down from Chicago. And he was playing Goldango. He had a rough start. I ended up taking that one. It was close though. I'll give him that. And then last round, I needed a win against Roaring Moon, and I guess I didn't do my homework, and I didn't know that the top 8 deck of Roaring Moon that was in Dortmund actually had 3 switches in it instead of the normal 2.
So you counted wrong.
So he used one before I even showed Mawile to be able to attack. He showed a second after I escape roped, and he promoted Greninja. He gave me a Mawile target, right? And then that's 2 switches, and then he found a third, which he had in
So
his deck.
was he not playing water energy?
No, he was not.
So he was throwing up a single prize target rather than
Yeah.
having the moon in the active?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, you had to have known that he had another switch when he threw the Greninja out there, right?
I knew that
Otherwise,
he
he
could.
wouldn't do it.
I knew he had an escape rope in hand, right? But I did not expect a third switch, and even if I did, I thought I still have boss's orders, so then I can just stall him again, and then I easily win. Because there's no way they play 4. But boss's orders was prized, and I was like top decking every turn. My hand was garbage, so it was over from that.
Yeah,
And
that'll do it.
yeah, he ended up winning the cup as well.
Well, it makes
So
you feel a little bit better about it.
yeah,
Yeah, I like those champagne cups. They get a lot of people out there.
yeah, they normally do. It's great.
Was this one at Titan?
Sure was.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm sitting at 33 points, I think.
Not bad.
33 points out of 600.
Anything's possible.
Right? Like I said, you just got to win a regional and you're in.
Yep.
I have a cup top 8 in Champagne, and then a challenge third place from this last weekend. So that's my
Yeah, you got a ton of open challenge spots.
right, and a ton of open cup spots. You know,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna dominate these locals, man. But it doesn't matter because I'm winning Indy, so you know that's all that matters.
Yep.
Okay, so this leads us into how do we feel about where the meta is for the remainder of this rotation? So we each kind of took the current meta decks, we separated them into our tier lists, and now obviously the way just the way the meta generally rolls, things can move back and forth. However, there is one North American regional left, and I think there's nothing in Europe, and I think 2 Latin American regionals in this rotation. Is that right? Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's not a ton of major tournaments to make this, ebb and flow. So I think it's a good time to just kind of say, where do we feel like this meta is for the remainder of this rotation? So let's see. Good way to go. I say, what do you think? Just give S tiers. Let's go around. We'll give S tiers, kind of go down,
Sure.
just tier by tier. So Death, start us off. Give us the decks that are in your S tier.
I don't have nothing in my S tier.
So you are saying there is nothing that just flat out stands out as what you believe top of the top, nothing head and shoulders above everything else, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there anything you've considered putting into your S tier, or you had in there and then dropped out after you realized, that wasn't where you thought or where you wanted it to be for it to be an S tier?
I had Tina and I had Gardevoir in there, but then I kind of changed my mind, and kind of dropped them down to A tier.
Okay. Keaton, what do you have in your S tier?
Well, speaking of that, I have Gardevoir and Tina in my S tier.
Did you have any that you had in there and dropped down at all?
I
Or
I
were
did
you
have
just instantly knew what this was going to be?
I had Charizard in there, but it has, I'd say, losing matchups to Gardevoir and Tina, or slightly unfavored. They're still winnable, but I don't think it's currently as good as Tina and Guardy.
Funny you mention that. Because I also have Tina and Guardy in my S tier. I also
Solid.
had Charizard in my S tier and dropped it out because it has bad matchups into Guardy and Tina, but it also has bad matchups into 2 of my A tier decks.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at that, I'm like, that's 4 of the top, what I believe to be the top decks out there. Charizard cannot sit in the S tier at that point.
Exactly.
So we have 2 of us to have Guardian Tina in S tier, and 1 of us has nothing. Death, what is your A tier?
My A tier, top of A tier is Tina. Second is Gardevoir. Third, I had Charizard, and then fourth, I had Bao.
Okay. So, all right. So here we go. So your A tier had our S tier, so that kind of makes sense. And then you had Chien-Pao and what was it, Charizard?
Charizard, yep.
Okay. So Charizard, it's a deck that both Keaton and I had considered in the S tier, so that makes sense as well. And can I point out that Chien-Pao, the deck that we have been trashing since Paradox Rift.
It's
We have
back.
been trashing this deck since Paradox Rift. We have been calling it cloth tier, trash tier, everything. And it's for real. It's back. Not only did it win a regional, but it's showing up, and it feels better than it has ever been. But before I get on my Chien-Pao rant, Keaton, what do you have in your A tier?
I have Charizard because it's really good deck all around. It has many favorable matchups and it's pretty consistent. I have Chien-Pao because it's actually better than a lot of people think if you pilot it very well. It's quick, kind of consistent, and can pop off. I got Mew VMAX DTE because Judge Path is a thing, right? And then we got Snorlax because it has favored matchups into 3 of the top 5 decks, I'd say, and a lot of others.
Okay, so you had Pow, Snorlax, DTE, Mew, and Charizard.
Yep.
Okay. And so the only new deck you have... No, you've brought in 2 new decks that have not been mixed, Snorlax and Mew. Mm-hmm. So my A tier, I have the Charizard for similar reasons you mentioned. It's just powerful, it's very consistent, and it just gets the job done. 330 is still really hard to deal with. I have Chien-Pao. It's back. It's good. It feels really good to pilot it. It has good matchups into Tina, good matchups into Guardy, good matchups into Charizard. I mean, it has good matchups into the meta right now. So I believe it's in a very good spot. I do also have Snorlax in my A tier for a similar reason. When Snorlax is forgotten about, that's when it's the best time to play it. And it has good matchups into... It's really good into Charizard, really good into Guardy. It's really good into Mew. It's not good into Tina. It's fine into Chien-Pao. I think it's pretty good into Chien-Pao, actually. I haven't played that matchup very often.
It's okay.
Pao has the advantage Pao has is it has all attackers. Yes. So you're not throwing in an off color into the active spot like you can in other decks. But if you get, a B barrel in the active or something, they're in trouble. B-doof in the active, you're in trouble.
That's the only way you can win.
The main problem, you can also make them spread their energy so thin that they can't attack anymore. If you can boss backs and they put 3 energy on to attack, then you boss the other backs, they put 3 energy on to attack, and then maybe anything that is not a Chien-Pao you put up, and then they will start to run out of energies to use.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially if they're playing the hands build, they're just playing so little water energy that you can really spread them out. I've had opponents spread me out thin, and they're not even playing Snorlax. They just spread me out thin, and I throw my hands up and I say, I can't do anything. So yeah, that's a really good point. So the advantage that Pao has is everything can attack, but the disadvantage is the lack of energy and just some weak attackers like the B-doof, B-barrel, Manaphy, things that you don't want to get in that active spot. So I have Pao, I have Snorlax, I have Zard, I do have DTE Mew up there in tier 2 as well, mainly because of its consistency. It is the most consistent deck in the format, and it plays just about every single game, which is more than a lot of other decks can say. And then the other deck I have in A tier is I have Roaring Moon in A tier. When piloted well, Roaring Moon is really, really good, and it has decent matchups into a lot of the what I believe to be A tier. Good into Chien Pao, good into Snorlax, good into Charizard, good into Mew. So I mean, it's good matchup spread and fairly consistent. So I do also have that in A tier.
Sounds about right.
B tier, Def. Give us your B tier.
I have VMAX Mew, Snorlax Doll, Roaring Moon, then Miraidon, and then Rapid Strike.
Okay, so you have brought in 2 new decks that we haven't talked about yet: the Miraidon and the Rapid Strike. Why are those in your B tier?
Well, I like the consistency of Rapid Strike of Miraidon. I think Miraidon is still a really good deck, and it still pretty much matches up really well. It's that middle of the tier kind of deck to where it can win against any deck, but it can also lose against any deck. So I feel like it was the perfect spot for B tier. It's low B tier, and then Rapid Strike. I just like how Rapid Strike works. If it gets going early, and like Keaton was saying that if your opponent bricks, it's gonna run over deck. So I felt like it was kind of pretty much bottom of B tier.
Yeah, Rapid Strike is definitely one of those meta call decks, and if you believe that it has a good matchup spread against, the what you believe to be the top decks, then yeah, that's when Rapid Strike's time to shine. Keaton, what do you have in your B tier?
I got Roaring Moon because it can pop off. It's consistent and it's fast. I got Sablezard because it has good matchups into a lot of things. Like I'd say Chien Pao is favored. I'd say other Lost Box, Roaring Moon, Miraidon, Snorlax, maybe Mew, maybe Guardy, definitely Tina. It's just a lot of favorable matchups. I have the other Lost Box, which Hands, Moon, Kyogre, whatever you want to call it, because it
What do they call that
also
one? Paradox box.
yeah, because it beats a lot of stuff as well, and it's also can be quick. I have Goldango because it's had an uprising. It's actually a lot better than people think it is, and it draws cards. And there's less path right now, so it can really, really be good. And then Fusion Mew because it's just the not as good Mew VMAX, but it's better into some of the matchups, I guess, and worse into more. So that's where I'm at for B tier.
Okay, so you brought in Paradox Box, Golden Go, and uh Sablezard, right?
Yep.
Okay. So my B tier, I also have Sablezard in there. I also have Golden Go in there. I also have Paradox Box in there. But I also agree with Death, and I have Miraidon in here. Now, when Paradox Rift first came out, we had the 3 S tier decks, which were Guardy, Charizard, and Miraidon. And oh, how the mighty have fallen with Miraidon.
Yes.
Charizard was its biggest problem. It was really tough for Miraidon to beat a Charizard when they get set up. With the rise of other decks putting Charizard down a little bit, I think that is what is going to lead to the rise of Miraidon a little bit, and this is, I think, a good spot for it to be. And I think Miraidon could bounce up to the A tier because it has good matchups into Tina if you can get that hands going early. Good matchup into Pow. Good matchup into Guardy with the hands. So it has a lot of good matchups. It just needs to avoid the Charizards or the matchups that it does have a little more difficulty with. C tier. Let's switch it up. Keaton, what's your C tier?
My C tier is the rest of the decks I haven't mentioned. I have Miraidon at the top because it's decent, but I think it's unfavored into a lot of things that are becoming more popular. I have Cloth because it's just not great, and it's kind of a cheese. I have Entei Valiant. It's okay, but it kind of gets outclassed, and it's just maybe not as good as all the other decks. And then I have one of my old pet decks, Urshifu, because it loses to 3 of the top 7 decks. So that's not great.
Based on your run at Knoxville, I'm surprised you didn't drop that into D tier by itself, just
I'm
to
surprised at that too.
just to punish it from that.
I
level.
thought about it, but it has matchups it can still play, so I let it be in last place at C tier.
It's still the bottom deck, just in C
Yep.
tier. All right, Death, what do you have in C? In C.
Goldingo and Cloth as my C tier, and then I have 2 decks that I've never seen before, so I couldn't put anything on them, so they're at the bottom of my C tier, which is the Mew with Serena. No, that's not Serena.
Meloetta. That's the
yeah.
fusion Mew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never seen that deck, so I can't really say anything on that deck. So
Okay.
I have it at bottom of C tier, and then Roy Moon Lost Zone deck. I've never seen that deck.
Okay, yeah. So that was the deck that was courtesy of Tord after he got DQ'd at LAIC for slow play with Guardy. His next 2 tournaments, or 2 or 3 tournaments, he started playing around. Like he just created this deck on the fly, is what it seemed like. And
Oh yeah.
it was just referred to as a lost pile for a while because it
Tord box, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, it brought in, I think, Roaring Moon and Palkia the first time around, and then it was like Roaring Moon, Iron Hands, and Giratina the second time around, or something like that. Like it was literally just a pile that Tord said I can win with whatever pile of garbage I play.
Yeah.
And he was performing, and because of
tried that
became
pile
popular.
too.
What's that?
I played that pile for a little bit.
Yeah, and before I realized what it was, I was making fun of you for it, and I was like, "Oh no, it's actually good. It's actually a legit deck." So yeah, that's what that one was just Tord messing around, and it turned out to be a really good deck.
Really good deck. That's funny.
So my C tier, I have Rapid Strike. And just to clarify, my tiers are in no order whatsoever. I think they can just be interchanged with each other with whatever tier they're in. So I have Rapid Strike in C tier, mainly because it is sometimes really good and sometimes really bad. So it's just kind of right there in the middle. It depends on the meta. It's a good meta call. I have Fusion Mew in C tier. It is, like you said, the inferior version of Mew, and I think it is far inferior right now. And then I have Entei Valiant in C tier. This is a deck that if I hadn't been playing it recently, it would probably be in the D tier. But man, this deck is fun, and it is so much better than I thought it was. You can pull off some insane plays with this and just steal games out of nowhere. I don't know how many donks I've gotten with this deck. It's incredible. I've had quite a few turn 1 going second yoga loops with it. There's just a lot of insane plays you can do with this deck. And it's just not quite there. I don't know what it is. It's really close to being really good. With all the highs I've had with it, I've also had a lot of games where I've gotten down to 1 or 2 prizes and I just can't finish it off.
Yeah, you get
So
Ionoed, you're out of switches.
Correct. It's just missing something. It's just not quite there. But man, that deck is fun to play. It is an absolute blast to play. And so, as far as D tier, Death, you don't have anything in your D tier?
Oh no, I have something in my D tier.
Oh, you do?
What is it? I truly hate.
Hold on. I know this. Entei Valiant. That's in there because you think that deck is as bad as I thought it was.
It's trash.
And Sablezard.
Yes. That deck is trash too. I don't care what anybody says.
You know, every time I start to think Sablezard is bad, I lose to it a couple times in a tournament. I just got thrashed by Sablezard
with Charizard, and I don't know if it's just that I've gotten lucky, but I mean I've played that deck probably 25 to 30 times, and I just think the deck is trash. It's a weaker, more pathetic version of the Giratina Lost deck. I don't like it. I think it's a waste.
Charizard and Miraidon. Charizard and Miraidon are probably the worst matchups for. Is that right, Keaton? You might have more experience
for
with
Sablezard.
Yeah.
Charizard's actually not too bad.
I guess
But
with the addition of D though, it's probably better, right?
yes. And okay, well, Barrel Zard is horrible. That's really bad. And especially if they put down Jirachi, then you can't really do much. Rhydon's not too bad.
I mean, I feel like if they get the hands out early, you're in trouble.
If they go turn 1 hands and you can't respond with Charizard, then it's bad. But I mean, it's not great, but it's winnable.
But it has insane good matchups against some of those top decks.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I said, I don't care what anybody says. I think the deck's trash. And you know
So
how I feel about
you
Iron Valiant, and I
Yep.
think, yeah. I don't even know why
Anti
people.
Valiant, Sablezard.
It's such an
And-
annoying deck to play against, and yet it just, yeah.
I was digging through some of the cards I have and ran across a Brilliant Stars pre-release Moltres.
Uh-huh.
It
Ooh.
was just in my bulk. So I'm like, you know what? I can build Iron Valiant. I got this. Just so I can use that Moltres. Keaton, you don't have anything in your D tier, right?
I do not.
Okay. And I only had one deck in my D tier, and it is Cloth. As much as it pains me to do it, because I do enjoy that deck. What was somewhat well positioned is not anymore. With the rise of Guardy, Cloth is just dead. It's like an auto loss to Guardy. I think it's an auto loss to Giratina as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it just cannot compete with those, and with those two decks as popular as they are.
Yeah.
And it should be a good matchup in a Charizard, but it's just not. Thinking that the Electrode can take down a Charizard with no energy, but then Charizard just turns around and knocks it right back out. And
Yeah.
and how does the Cloth player respond? Unless they can get three Electrodes in a row, which is tough. And they have to boss at the right time to get the opposing Charizard up there. It's what should be a good matchup. It just can't compete.
Mm-hmm. I'd also like to mention, I've played against a Iron Valiant Cloth deck. I think once he got, I think, second at the League Cup at Titan Games this week. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Is it just Iron Valiant with? Does it throw in Cloth because it's poisoning you with the Valiant, or what?
No, it's like Cloth deck plus Iron Valiant. It's got 12 switches, it's got Cloth, it's got Electrode, it's got everything. It's like a fusion.
Okay, interesting.
Yep. Shout out Jay.
I was playing against what was the Valiant deck I was playing against? I just did a video on it. Shoot, I don't know what it is. It's a card that reduces your opponent's active Pokemon to 10. Oh, Claydol.
Oh.
Claydol. It knocks itself out, but it reduces your opponent's Pokemon down to 10. So you use that attack, and then you bring in Iron Valiant. And because it's still your turn,
yeah.
it finishes the knockout with that.
That's cool.
So I thought so too. But the problem is you're giving up a prize every time you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
your
And
opponent
they
just knock
swing
out the
again.
Valiant, and they just got 3 prizes and you only got 2.
Yeah.
So that my thought was, okay, that's cool. And then I realized, oh yeah, that's not as cool because I can just knock out the Valiant and I'm set. But it was kind of cool to see though.
And where would you guys put Arc Gigas in here? Because I know there was a decent amount of that.
You're right. I did forget to include that. Argigas. Maybe B tier. It's fine. It's good, and the players that know how to play it well. Makani knows how to play it well. Nathan Stratford knows how to play it well, and they perform well with it. Joe Turrentine knows how to play it well. But I mean, even at that point, they're still not making top 8 with it. So I think it settles at a happy B tier, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
That's where I was gonna put it.
That's one deck that I have tried very, very hard to play. And as a matter of fact, I bought the Gigases not that long ago because I'm like, I can build this, and it just doesn't work for me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I need Makani or Nathan or Joe to teach me how to play this deck because it looks super fun. But man, I just can't play it. But it has Judge Path and a big meaty attacker. Anything with Judge Path's pretty good. Any last thoughts on the tier list from either of you?
No.
All right. You know what it's time for?
Drill trivia.
Drill trivia. So episode 18, Drill is not Pokemon number 18, but we screwed up. And I believe it was the last episode with Keaton that we originally screwed up.
I think I had
Pidgey instead of Weedle. So after this one with Drill, we will be back on track with episode number 19 with the correct Pokemon number. So until then, we have Drill trivia. So today we will ask Keaton our Drill questions and see if he can come up with them. They can be questions from anything with the TV show, the video game, the card game, anything we feel like. So, Death, you want to do your question? You want me to give my question first?
Yeah, no, I'll do mine first.
Okay,
So,
here we go.
Obviously, we know Beedrill is pretty much based off of a bee, but what is its appearance actually based on? Like, which hornet?
Which hornet?
Yes.
Oh no.
The big one.
I can't even. I don't really know. I mean,
Can
I
you
think the
name
name of
one?
a yellow jacket. That's my.
That would be my guess.
That's my best guess.
Nope, it's not that one. Seems like
I
you know
got
it.
no clue.
No. Yellow Jacket would have been my guess.
Oh, I got
Actually,
you.
I was going to say Hornet as my answer. I thought you were going to say it's not a bee. It is really more closely to what? And I was going to say Hornet.
Yeah,
But no, I did not know the
more
specific
closer.
Hornet.
It is the appearance of it is actually based off of the giant Indian hornet.
Giant Indian Hornet?
Yep.
Dude, imagine you found one of those in the wild. I'd be running so fast.
Well, I am looking this up right now because I want to see what a holy cow, that thing looks scary. I don't know how big it is, but I don't want to.
I mean,
that's
to be honest with you, with a name like Giant Indian Hornet, I'm thinking it's probably pretty big.
Dude, the first picture I just pulled up, it's
Yo,
like
it's the size of his finger.
right. It's like on the fingertip to the second knuckle.
Yeah, those things are big.
Is terrifying. Like it just looks angry too. Like the zoomed in picture of his face, it just looks angry.
So, do you see the Beedrill in it?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing it's missing is the giant
needles in the hand. Yeah.
If it had that, it's a Beedrill. Holy cow! Yeah, I don't want to run into one of those. Okay, so my question, I feel like is easier depending on how much you know about the video game. I can't remember what your video game history is.
Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
What about your Pokemon Go history?
I have more of that.
Okay, so it's probably easier for Pokemon Go players. So Beedrill is black and yellow. What color is shiny Beedrill?
Ooh. Okay, I think it's like a light green. And I think like a mustard yellow. I think.
So you're going light green and mustard yellow.
Something like that.
Okay. Death, you have a guess?
I have no clue. I have never seen a shiny Beedrill before.
I have not either. That's why I asked this question. And with Pokemon Go, with all the community days and stuff, I don't know if there has been a Weedle community day or if anybody cares about a Weedle community day. But usually, if that's when everybody sees these shiny Pokemon. But a shiny Beedrill.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a gorgeous color though. I like it.
I like it too. Keaton, you were half right. It is light green and black. So the yellow is just replaced with black or with green.
With green, yeah.
But it is a good looking shiny Pokemon.
I like the mega form of it as well.
Yeah. Sometimes they hit the nail on the head with the shiny Pokemon.
Yes, they do.
And I think they did it with Beedrill. Kakuna looks good too. I think Weedle is just a brighter yellow.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
shiny
I think
form.
it's more yellow instead of the brownish color.
Yeah, so those I hate it when it's just like you have to squint to see the shiny of it.
Like Charmander's shiny color. Yeah.
And Pikachu.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people don't like the recolors like the Beedrill or the Espeon, things like that, Jolteon.
I like
But
Espeon's shiny.
what is your favorite shiny? Do you have a favorite? Do you know?
Charizard. I love the Charizard black. I love
That is a absolute good looking shiny. Keaton, do you have a favorite shiny?
Greninja or Rayquaza?
Rayquaza's the black.
Rayquaza's,
They're
yeah.
both
Yeah,
black,
I
right?
love his too. His is black.
Greninja I only know because of the Radiant Greninja card.
I don't
I
know
love
what.
Greninja. I watched one of the shows where Ash's Greninja fought, and conveniently that's my last name. So
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that works.
my V-Star marker in the trading card game has Ash's Greninja in the back.
Oh, nice.
You know another good one? You will like this one. Shiny Umbreon.
That's my favorite. Shiny Umbreon's my favorite. It's the accent color has changed from yellow to blue,
Mm-hmm.
and the eyes have changed from red to yellow. It is a beautiful shiny Pokemon, and it is my favorite. Not just because Umbreon's my favorite, but it is a beautiful shiny Pokemon. Especially when you find like the regular Umbreon with the shiny next to each other. It looks really, really cool.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
All right, so we are on second half of the episode where we are going to look for the future. So we've seen the results of the Champions League, and actually, I was going to mention this last episode. For those of you who don't know, in Death, I'm not sure if you have identified this as well, but Limitless now shows Japanese City League tournaments as well,
It's great. I love
which
it.
are the equivalent to our Cups and Challenges.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to the Limitless page where you look at the regional results,
Mm-hmm.
they have a option at the top for City Leagues. Click on that, and it will show you the results of the Japanese City Leagues, and it is insane to look at just where they're at with meta results because you just get a lot more information than you would any other place. And previously, I would have to go and look in like Japanese websites and have it translated to English so I can try to understand what's going on. But this putting it all in one place makes it really good.
Looks like Chien Pao is making a rise to the top.
It is surprisingly with how it did not finish well in the Champions League. The one that I just pulled up is using the Kyogre, the dynamic wave Kyogre, which when I first started playing Chien Pao, I had in the list as well. Being able to snipe 180, pretty good. So where do we feel the meta is going to be for EUIC? The first major tournament with post-rotation, it's always a shakeup. It's always what we don't expect. So what we're going to talk about here, we're going to be completely wrong when EUIC hits. So what do we think are the best decks going into EUIC? Just based on what we've seen with the Japanese results. Don't everybody start at once. Lugia. Do we think that Lugia is legit the best deck post-rotation?
No.
No.
I think Charizard is undisputedly the best deck. With Barrel.
Okay.
Definitely.
Dropping the Pidgeot, playing the B-Barrel.
Pidgeot's still fine, but it's not as good. I remember somebody gave a really good reason on Twitter, but I can't recall. what it was. Um,
Yeah,
I'll get back to you on that.
I have the same memory too. I'm like, yeah, I've heard a lot of good explanations, and I can't really remember what they were.
I'm kind of curious. I'm about to look it up because I'm kind of curious on why they think Bibarel is better than Pidgeot.
I think number one, you know what? I think it's just that it's safer. That after a Iono or is it the Clippers that drops your hand down?
Yeah,
There are just so many different hand disruption that the B-barrel allows you to just draw right back out of it. Well, I mean, Iron Thorns isn't out there, so that doesn't matter yet. That's still a ways away.
it's true.
So, I mean, is it?
I'm
I,
still looking.
I'm really drawing a blank. There was something that I was like, oh man, B-barrel is going to be played everywhere. But I think this is coming in the next set, whatever it is that I'm trying to think of.
Definitely.
What is it?
And then after that, I can also mention some other stuff. I think Chen Pao's good. It's in the same place. I think Stall is actually incredible. I think it's even better. I see that being actually a really good play. It's on my list of decks to try.
Being able to remove items out of your opponent's hand in
Yes, I'm
addition
so
to the
excited for
deck
that.
is going to be insane for Stall.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
And then I feel like Lost Box is alright, but with no Kyogre, it makes some matchups harder. And no Dragonite either, which pretty much sucks. Um, then we got like the Baby Moon deck. I think it's alright, but
The
it takes a
Ancient Box.
while to get going. Yeah,
Dude,
Ancient
that
Box.
deck looks so fun to play. That Baby Moon I think is so good. And I think people think it's fine. I think it's underrated. I think that it has untapped potential that that deck is going to be insane. I think it just needs to be found. I think the right deck just needs to be found with that. But it's there. That card is insane. A single prizer that can do that much damage for such little energy,
Mm-hmm.
along with the synergy it has with all the other ancient cards, I think it's going to be really good.
I think Arc could have a metagame shape around it with Vulpix. It could definitely be solid and scary for people to play against.
I'm going to
And
jump out right now and say that's what's going to win a UIC.
just like UIC last year.
Correct. And here's why. Is when you get a new meta, you have the people experimenting and you have the people going off Japanese results or limited testing. And what beats that is consistency and shutting down your opponent. And that's what that can do. The problem with the Japanese results is everything's best of one, so you have a lot more variance. I think that was what the reason why Lugia won the Champions League was, yeah, it's a fine deck, but I think variance played a role in that with best of one. And you need consistency. You need things to just shut down what your opponents are trying to do. And I think we're going to see another Arc Vulpix deck win a UIC this time around. Same reason it did last time. It just works. It stops the cute things that your opponent's trying to do, and it just works. It's really good against Charizard, really good against Chimpao. That's two of the top decks right there.
Yeah. And
The difference this
then
time around is there's no path.
yeah, that's true. And then we got I actually really like I've been it's the only deck I have built for post rotation. Iron Hands, Iron Crown.
Is Iron Crown the one that increases the
Future
damage?
box. Yeah.
Okay.
Swing fast, swing hard, take extra prize cards.
Take 3 prizes from the Pidgeot EX
Oh yeah.
with the Iron Crown.
Or kill
And
all the
Lugia V-Star.
barrels. Lugia. Yeah, if Lugia is even better, I pretty much automatically beat that deck.
Yeah, because you, with the Iron Crown, Iron Hands can, it's only 2 prizes because it can't use the amp on that. So, but it is taking the one hit KO on the Pidgeot and the Lugia.
Mm-hmm.
Looking through the City League results, The winner of the Osaka City League is the deck that I am most excited to try. I did it this time around with rotation, and I'm going to do it again this time because it's going to be better. But it's the Dialga V-Star Matang deck. I am so excited for this. I was so excited last time with Dialga and Magnezone, and it did not pan out, but I'm really hoping this one does. Dialga V-Star is just an insane card. Like in a vacuum, it's just an insane card. The problem is 220 for 5 energy, even if you take another turn, is just not that good with the way everything else is. They played 17 energy in that deck. Looking at some of the other results, we do have the couple Xianpao winners. Couple future box. There's a Snorlax Pidgeot that was in there. There is a Spathra. That's a deck that I've heard a lot of people talk about as a contender, but once again, the deck just kind of needs to be figured out. The race 60 needs to be figured out for it, but when that deck is on, it's rough to play against.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about that deck because it's also running Mewtwo.
Another what? What? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's got the Mewtwo EX. Okay. All right. Another Osaka list has Gardevoir coming back. Gardevoir, Screamtail, Drifloon, Fluttermane.
I'm gonna hop on the Gardevoir train while it's still here. I might play it to a few minutes, but after this, it's done.
Yeah, I agree with you. To an extent, it can definitely come back. It's just a really, really good engine. So as long as there's something playable with it,
That's true.
It can always come back. So I did pick up some full art Gardevoirs from Paldean Fates. Not the Dancing Forest one, but the other one.
Yeah.
I really like those, so I picked up a couple of those just for, if Gardevoir does come back, I have my shiny Gardevoir for that.
Definitely.
So what do you guys think if you were to play in EUIC post rotation? What deck are you bringing? If you had to make that decision right now,
you already know mine.
Yep. Now, are you going to do Charizard Pidgeot? Or are you going to do Charizard Bibarel?
I'm gonna have to lab with Bibarel because obviously I'd feel more confident with Pidgeot, but if Bibarel is gonna be the better play, then I'm gonna have to pretty much lab with it because I didn't like Bibarel when I first ran it earlier in my Charizard career. So,
and it might not be the best one. We as in the Pokemon community thought it was the best one the first time around too, and eventually, well, I guess after Arceus, it was Arceus, then Bibarel, and then Pidgeot, and then back to Bibarel with the TM evolution, and then back to Pidgeot. So it could do that again too.
Mm-hmm.
Keaton, what are you running if you're playing EUIC tomorrow post rotation?
I got a list of choices. How many do I got on my list? 8. I probably wouldn't play these 3.
Yep, give me 3. Give me 3 choices.
I'd either play Stall, Arc, or Future Box.
Okay.
And if I had to choose, I'd play Future Box if it's as good as I think it is, and like if the meta's right for it. And it's fast. I like that. Arc if not as many decks are playing switches. Stall if just good. I mean that deck's just gross.
You know what deck I haven't heard from either of you is Great Tusk Mill. Why is nobody talking about that?
Oh no.
That's one that I might pull out at a challenge here and there, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be too good necessarily. In a world full of Lost Box, I think that might be insane. Any deck that, cuts themselves down to half their deck in a couple turns, I think it could be really good. I think if I am playing the UIC tomorrow post rotation, I mean, obviously, Chien Pao is going to be my go-to. It's just what I know. It's what I have the most practice with, and hopefully, it's as good as we think it is. But I would also highly consider Art Gigas, not Art Gigas, Art Tina.
Hmm.
I think Art Tina is a safe play, and that's kind of what I talked about with the UIC is you want it. You want a safe play. You want something that is at least somewhat of a known quantity, and that's why I think Arc Vulpix is a solid option, and Arctina is a solid option as well. It used to be, a top tier deck before Charizard, and then they realized it couldn't beat Charizard. But the addition of the maximum belt is enough to push Arctina over the edge and allow it to knock out a Charizard. So I think that's a safe, solid play. Even without Path, just being able to arc into a Tina, judge your opponent, and now they are stuck with the hand to forward that you got set up and they didn't. So I think Arc Tina is probably my play if I were to play in a post rotation tournament right now.
Solid.
Let's see. Let's go. So we talked about last episode. We talked about the giant list of cards that were spoiled for the next set, the Masquerade set. Keaton, have you gotten a chance to look through those?
I've seen some of the cards, not all of them.
Okay, so I gave you a link. Have you pulled those up yet?
I've seen the Ursaluna, I've seen the Infernape, so I think I got a pretty good
Okay.
grip.
Any of those that you're particularly excited to see coming up?
What is Iron Thorn, right?
Iron Thorn is the new path.
That I am incredibly excited for that card because if I end up playing my future box, it'll make that deck even better. It'll make it, I think, close to unstoppable. If you can put two of them out, and or even one, since Escape Rope is gone, they might just have no abilities on their rule box Pokemon. So it's kind of like a Path to the Peak, and you can't even have Path to the Peak to turn it off. Like,
Yeah.
it's great, and it moves energy. It's pretty perfect.
Now you can shut it off with Fluttermane. So that's a thing.
Mhm.
You can shut it off with a Klefki.
Yep. Ursaluna is also seems really good. I won't lie. That seems pretty broken.
Iron Thorns feels like it was tailor made to beat Lugia because it stops Lugia's V Star power, and the Bolt Cyclone can one hit KO the Lugia V Star.
Definitely.
So
I
it
can see
feels
that.
like it was tailor made to beat Lugia. So that's going to give Lugia a run for its money.
And we have Enhanced Hammer coming back.
And which is also a I hate you Lugia card. I think that we're going to start seeing more Iron Bundle because that may be the only way to deal with Iron Thorns. So you may need that second Iron Thorns on your bench.
Yeah.
We don't have Rope, but Iron Bundle is a good card that can just be tossed in to throw something else out of the active.
That's true.
So I think we may be seeing some more Iron Bundle. But yeah, man, that Ursaluna card is so good. 240 damage, 260 HP. I spent, like 30 minutes of last episode talking about how whatever can deal 230 damage can one hit KO every basic out there.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have Ursaluna who, 260, so there goes my theory, with that. But 260 HP on a basic and do 240 damage mid-game for 3 energy.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's insane. We were talking that is possibly a extremely good addition to Snorlax stall.
Yeah, or colorless Lugia.
It's
Or that one too, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I didn't even think of that. But with Snorlax, it's a big meaty blocker, and if you throw that 100 HP cape on it, it has 360 HP. They hit it, you penny it back up, drop it again, drop it with the cape. I mean, you just do that. They can't get through it. Plus, it can
Nope.
hit. So you're playing Snorlax, easier setup to just hit with your active Pokemon now. You don't necessarily need the whole Pidgeot setup to be able to attack with it. What are your thoughts on the reset stamp? Or not reset, unfair stamp.
Oh,
By the way,
card's-
that was the card that was the everybody's going to be playing B-Barrel after this.
Oh yeah, that card's that's just so good. It's given Prime Catcher around. It's given all the A specs around for their money.
When I first saw that, my thought was, if they make any of these ace specs on Prime Catcher level, we're in trouble. Like I don't even know what they could do. And they brought some playable ones like the cape, the belt. They're fine, but they're definitely like niche playable depending on what deck they're in. Same with the ancient and the future one. But this, man, this is 100% on Prime Catcher level, and it might be the default. Previously, it was okay, Prime Catcher, then we'll look at everything else. But now it might be unfair stamp, and now we'll look at everything else to see if there's a better fit. I mean, that card is just insane.
Yeah, definitely.
Your opponent takes a turn 2 KO, they're down to 2 cards in their hand. I mean, that's just insane. It can be Arvin, which is really good. It's an item, so it can be Darkrai V-Starred back up. I think we might see Darkrai V-Star pop up because of these ace specs. There's only a couple ways to reuse items, and Darkrai is one of them. So I think we'll see some more Darkrai. We might even see Darkrai splashes here and there just because of how powerful that is. Being able to Prime Catcher twice or Unfair Stamp twice seems pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So, Keaton, you mentioned that the future box is what you're looking forward to the most. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of most excited to try, play?
It seems fun, and it seems like it has potential to just outpace a lot of stuff. So I just want to try it. And I usually don't play decks like that.
Well, anything that doesn't have a card that rhymes with Schmyogre in it is probably not good for you.
Exactly.
Death outside of Charizard, because that is your pet deck. That is what your go-to. Outside of that, what are you most excited to play post rotation?
Snorlax Stall. I'm so excited to throw Ursaluna in it. Eerie, it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to torturing people with that deck.
Yeah, I am too. It's super fun. So yeah, I'm excited for that too. So let's see. We talked about our tier list. We did our Beedrill trivia, and then we looked toward the future. Do either of you have any closing thoughts? Anything else that you want to talk about that we missed?
Don't think so.
I got nothing.
All right. Awesome. Well, at that point, that concludes episode 18 of the Kings Rock podcast. Keaton, I would like to thank you for joining us yet again.
Thank you, guys.
Keaton can be found on Twitter or X at Beyond Keto.
Exactly.
It's just X, not Twitter or X.
Twitter or X.
Oh, it is Twitter in my heart.
Dude, I look around here. I still have the Twitter logos on here. It's much more identifiable.
That's true.
I can be found on Twitter at TheBoldUp24, on Twitch at TheBoldUp, and YouTube at TheBoldUp. Death, tell us where you can be found.
On Twitter at DeathGiverG and on YouTube with DeathGiver Gaming.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us for episode 18 of the Kings Rock podcast. We will see you next week, and until then,
have a good weekend, everybody.
Alrighty. See you guys.